lives of the hostages at greater risk rather than lessening it. We reiterate our call for an immediate ceasefire. We reiterate our call for Hamas to immediately return all of the hostages and their remains. We reiterate that.
Imagine waking up one morning to find out that the retirement income you've been counting on for years is suddenly changing. Not just by a few dollars here and there, but through a series of updates that could completely alter how much you get, when you get it, and even whether you qualify at all. That's exactly what's happening in Canada right now. 2025 isn't just another year of routine adjustments. It's shaping up to be one of the most dramatic years in the history of Canadian pensions. Seniors across the country are seeing bigger payments in some cases, tighter restrictions in others, and whispers of even bigger changes that could rewrite the rules of retirement in the near future. The government says these updates are about fairness and modernization, but many seniors are worried. Are these changes really designed to protect them? Or is this the start of something that could quietly chip away at benefits Canadians have worked their entire lives expecting? Today, we're going to break it all down, from the new OAS and GIS increases, to hidden eligibility traps, to rumors that the retirement age could be pushed back again. And trust me, what we uncover will surprise you. So, before you make any decisions about your retirement planning, you need to know exactly what's happening. Because the changes coming in 2025 aren't just numbers on a page. They could directly impact your security, independence, and future. Let's start with the Old Age Security Program, the cornerstone of retirement for millions of Canadians. On the surface, the government is calling this year's changes good news. Why? Because starting July 2025, OAS payments are officially going up by 3.7%. Now, that might not sound like much when you first hear it, but for someone living on a fixed income, every single dollar counts. For Canadians aged 65 to 74, this means the maximum monthly OAS benefit will rise to about $713. And for those 75 and older, it jumps to around $784 per month. And here's where it gets interesting. That 10% bonus for seniors over 75, first introduced in 2022, hasn't gone anywhere. It's still locked in for 2025, giving older retirees a permanent edge. Supporters argue this helps the most vulnerable, but critics say it creates a two-tier retirement system where turning 75 suddenly makes you worth more in the eyes of the government. Think about it. For two people living side by side, one 74 and one 75, the older senior could be taking home significantly more each month just because of their age. Fair or unfair? That's one of the debates heating up right now. But here's the catch. These higher payments may look like a victory, yet they're only one part of the story. Because while the government is giving with one hand, they may be tightening things with the other. Bigger checks might sound like a win, but here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Starting in 2025, the government isn't just increasing payments, they're also tightening the rules for who actually qualifies. If you're turning 65 this year, you might be in for a surprise. The application process for OAS now comes with much stricter residency verification. That means if you've spent time living outside of Canada, even if it was years ago, you may face tougher questions and more paperwork before your first dollar ever lands in your bank account. Officials say this move is about cracking down on fraud, making sure benefits only go to people who truly qualify. But for many honest seniors, it feels like another bureaucratic hurdle, one that could delay payments or even deny them outright if records aren't perfect. Imagine working your whole life, counting down to retirement, and then suddenly being told that time you spent abroad could put your benefits at risk. for immigrants, frequent travelers, or anyone with gaps in their residency history. This change could be the difference between a smooth retirement and months of uncertainty. And here's what makes this even more concerning. The government isn't being crystal clear on how these checks will be enforced. Rumors suggest that some applicants may now be asked for decades-old documentation, proof many people don't even have anymore. If that happens, thousands of seniors could face delays at a time when they need their income most. So yes, the checks are getting bigger. But now, so are the hoops you'll have to jump through to get them. And while that might feel discouraging, there's another update that flips the script completely. A change that could give working seniors more freedom than ever before. Here's where things start to look very different. And for many seniors, this change could be life-changing. For years, one of the biggest complaints about the Guaranteed Income Supplement, GIS, was that it punished seniors for trying to work. If you earned even a modest amount from part-time or seasonal jobs, your GIS would shrink or disappear entirely. But in 2025, that rulebook is being rewritten. The government has now introduced a GIS work incentive exemption, allowing seniors to earn up to $7,500 per year without it cutting into their benefits. Think about how huge that is. Let's say you're picking up a job as a driver, a store greeter, a tutor, or maybe even working a few hours a week in community services. Before, just $600 a month could put your GIS at risk. Now, you can keep that money and still hold on to your supplement. This isn't just about numbers, it's about dignity. Seniors who still want to contribute, stay active, or simply cover rising grocery and utility costs finally have the freedom to do so without being punished for it. It's independence, stability, and self-respect all rolled into one policy shift. Critics argue this change should have happened years ago, but for the hundreds of thousands of low-income seniors who depend on GIS, 2025 marks a turning point. It's not just extra cash, it's breathing room. And here's the kicker. When people realize they can now work without fear of losing their benefits, we could see a wave of seniors stepping back into the workforce. That might reshape not only their lives, but also entire industries struggling with labor shortages. But while this new freedom is grabbing headlines, the government quietly slipped in another adjustment that's just as important. And it affects how much money you could see deposited every single month. The GIS changes don't stop with that work exemption. Starting July 2025, the maximum monthly GIS payment is climbing higher than ever. For single seniors, the benefit will rise to about $1,111 per month. And for couples, the combined payment could hit around $1,841, depending on joint income. For many Canadians, that's the difference between struggling to cover the rent and actually being able to breathe a little easier each month. It's not a luxury, it's survival. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The government is finally trying to make the system less complicated. They've rolled out a new automatic enrollment program for GIS. That means if you're 64 or older, you could receive a letter from Service Canada saying you've already been signed up. No confusing applications, no endless forms, no waiting in line. Sounds great, right? And for a lot of seniors, it will be. But here's the catch. If you don't get one of those letters, it doesn't mean you're not eligible. It just means the system hasn't caught you. And if you don't act, you could end up leaving thousands of dollars on the table. Money you deserve. Money that could make a real difference. The government says this is all about efficiency, but some experts warn it could create a false sense of security. Seniors may assume everything is automatic and never bother to check. And that's exactly how people slip through the cracks. So yes, payments are rising, and auto-enrollment is making life easier. But only if you stay alert. Because right behind these increases lies a little-known trap that could quietly shrink your retirement income without you even realizing it. Here's where the fine print comes in, and it's the part that catches far too many retirees off guard. While the government is handing out increases with one hand, it's quietly clawing money back with the other. For OAS, the income recovery threshold in 2025 is now set at $90,997. That means if your annual income goes above that number, your OAS doesn't just pause, it begins to shrink. And once your income reaches roughly $147,979, your OAS is gone completely. And it's not just the wealthy who need to worry. Many seniors cross that threshold without even realizing it. How? Through RRSP withdrawals, investment gains, or even part-time work. What feels like smart financial planning can suddenly backfire when the clawback kicks in. The story is similar for GIS. A single senior can now earn up to about $21,624 and still qualify for partial GIS, while couples can have around $60,000 combined. But the moment you creep over that line, your supplement starts to vanish, dollar by dollar. Critics call this the stealth tax on seniors because it punishes people for doing what they're told their whole lives: save, invest, and prepare for retirement. One wrong move, and you could lose thousands in benefits you thought were guaranteed. And here's the real kicker. Most retirees don't find out until it's too late. The reduction shows up in their payments, and by then, there's no quick fix. That's why financial planners say tax strategy is now just as important as retirement savings. Without it, your so-called increase in 2025 could vanish before it even reaches your account. So while headlines brag about bigger OAS and GIS checks, the reality is more complicated. Some seniors will come out ahead, but many could find themselves losing ground, fast. And just when it feels like benefits are being pulled away, two provinces are testing a brand new idea, a pilot project that could give struggling seniors a surprising lifeline. While clawbacks are leaving many seniors frustrated, there's one new experiment that could actually bring relief. Though for now, it's only happening in two provinces. It's called the Senior Stability Program, and it's being tested in Ontario and British Columbia. Here's how it works. If you're a GIS recipient and more than 35% of your income goes toward rent, you could qualify for a $150 monthly housing top-up. That might not sound like a fortune, but for seniors living paycheck to paycheck, it can be the difference between keeping the lights on and falling behind on bills. The program is aimed directly at one of the biggest struggles facing seniors today: rising housing and utility costs. For too many older Canadians, even with OAS and GIS, monthly rent eats up nearly everything they get. This pilot is designed to stop that spiral. Supporters see it as a step toward a nationwide solution. If the test in Ontario and BC proves successful, the federal government could roll it out across Canada as early as 2026 or 2027. That would make it one of the most significant new supports for low-income seniors in decades. But here's the catch. Right now, it's just a pilot. That means there's no guarantee it will expand. And with Canada facing tight budgets and rising costs in nearly every sector, critics warn that programs like this are often the first to be cut when money gets tight. Still, for those who qualify, this little-known top-up could be a lifeline, and possibly a glimpse of what's to come if policymakers finally start treating housing insecurity as a national crisis. But not every proposal on the table is so generous. In fact, one of the most controversial ideas being debated right now could push your retirement back by years. Now, here's where things get truly unsettling. Beyond the official updates, there are whispers, rumors of policy shifts that could completely reshape retirement in Canada, and the one that has seniors most on edge? The possibility of raising the OAS eligibility age back to 67. This idea isn't new. A decade ago, it was briefly on the table before being scrapped, but the debate is heating up again in 2025. Why? Because Canada is facing two massive challenges at the same time: a shrinking labor force and skyrocketing healthcare costs. Some policymakers argue that pushing back retirement would keep older Canadians working longer, paying more taxes, and easing pressure on public funds. On paper, it might sound logical, but for seniors, the impact would be devastating. Imagine planning your entire life around retiring at 65, only to find out the finish line has been moved. For those in physically demanding jobs, 2 extra years could feel impossible. And for low-income seniors, it could mean waiting longer for the benefits they desperately need to survive. Now, let's be clear. As of right now, 65 remains the official age to start OAS. The government hasn't announced a change yet, but the fact that this conversation is happening at all should raise alarms. Because once the debate starts in Parliament, it often ends with policy shifts down the road. And this isn't the only shadow hanging over seniors. Other proposals being floated include tighter income testing, more digital-only systems, and even caps on benefit growth tied to future inflation rates. None of these are confirmed, but the fact that they're on the table shows just how much uncertainty surrounds the future of retirement in Canada. So while 2025 brings bigger checks for now, the bigger question is, will those benefits still be there in 5 or 10 years? Or are we watching the first steps in a much larger restructuring of Canada's pension system? But even before those long-term battles play out, there's another immediate challenge seniors can't afford to ignore, one that could cut off your benefits completely if you're not paying attention. If you thought the biggest risks were years down the road, think again. Some of the most urgent threats to your benefits are happening right now, and they all come down to paperwork. Starting in 2025, the government has launched a much tougher stance on tax compliance. Both OAS and GIS rely directly on your income tax filings. That means if you miss a return, even by mistake, your benefits can be delayed, reduced, or completely suspended. And officials are no longer being lenient. Seniors who haven't filed in more than 2 years are being flagged, and many are already receiving warning letters. Think about that. After decades of paying into the system, a missing form could suddenly shut off the very income you depend on to live. And in many cases, by the time seniors realize what's happened, it's too late. Their payments are frozen, and it takes months to sort it out. At the same time, Ottawa is pushing a digital-first approach. Seniors are being encouraged, and in some cases pressured, to manage everything through the My Service Canada account, MSCA. From checking payment dates to updating direct deposit info, more and more services are moving online. For tech-savvy Canadians, this might sound convenient. But what about seniors who aren't comfortable with computers? For them, the shift feels less like modernization and more like exclusion. Critics warn this digital push could leave some of the most vulnerable seniors behind. And here's another detail you can't afford to miss. The next payment dates are already scheduled. OAS and GIS will be deposited on July 29th and August 28th, 2025. Mark those dates, double-check your banking info, and make sure your taxes are filed, because one small mistake could mean no deposit at all. So yes, payments are rising, and yes, new incentives sound promising. But the reality is clear. The system is becoming stricter, more digital, and far less forgiving. Seniors who aren't prepared could find themselves cut off in an instant. Which brings us to the final question. After all these changes, what does it really mean for your future? So, what does all of this mean for Canadian seniors in 2025? On the surface, it looks like a year of progress. OAS payments are higher, GIS is more flexible, and housing pilots are offering hope. For the first time in years, low-income seniors have a little more breathing room. But peel back the layers, and the picture isn't so simple. Stricter eligibility checks could delay or deny benefits. Income thresholds and clawbacks are quietly shrinking retirement payouts for thousands of Canadians. And looming in the background are rumors of even harsher reforms, including the possibility of pushing the OAS age back to 67. In other words, yes, there are wins this year. But those wins come with warnings. Seniors who stay informed, file their taxes on time, and double-check their eligibility will benefit. Those who don't may find themselves left behind. And that's the bigger story here. Canada's pension system is shifting, and no one knows exactly where it's headed. The question is, are these changes meant to strengthen retirement security, or are they the first steps in a slow, quiet restructuring that could leave future seniors with less? One thing is clear. If you're retired, about to retire, or helping a loved one navigate the system, you can't afford to sit back and wait and see. Knowledge is your greatest protection. So here's what you need to do next. Check your GIS eligibility, even if you've been denied before. File your taxes on time, no exceptions. Register for My Service Canada account to stay ahead of digital updates. And most importantly, share this information. Because the more seniors know, the harder it is for policy changes to slip under the radar. Now I want to hear from you. Have you already noticed changes in your OAS or GIS payments this year? Did the new rules make life easier or more stressful? Drop your experience in the comments below, because your story might help someone else. And if you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video with friends and family. The more we spread the word, the stronger we all are. Because in 2025, one thing is certain. Staying silent could cost you, but staying informed could protect your future.